Escalation of the tensions one has seen in the last 24 hours between Canada and India. Both sides have recalled, in fact, India recalled its envoy and then dismissed 6 high-ranking officials of Canada in India, starting with the acting High Commissioner. But what happens next? 24 hours have passed since then. Now, what could be the future trajectory of the Indian-Canadian ties is the key question we are asking. What happens to the trade dynamics between the two countries? What happens to the very deep people-to-people connect that exists between India and Canada? Remember, Indian students account for 40% of the international students that are in Canada. Highest, over 4 lakh right now, are studying there. When it comes to immigration numbers, India accounts for one of the highest in terms of citizens or people looking to migrate to Canada. In fact, the total number of people from Indian origin has crossed 1 million in Canada. Such deep ties exist on a people-to-people basis, but in the wake of very significant, deep nosediving of relations that started with Canada, what lies ahead is our big question on India Global. We're going to put 4 key questions, but let's also get in our experts this evening to talk more about what can we expect in terms of the relationship between the two countries. But first up, listen in to this important soundbite.
Canada fully respects the sovereignty and territorial integrity of India. We expect the Indian government to do the same for Canada.
Despite the raging diplomatic fallout between New Delhi and Ottawa, priority partner India is Canada's 10th largest trading associate. The bilateral trade between the two countries amounted to $8.4 billion in 2023 to 2024, a rise of 23.5% in 5 years. Notably, India's imports from Canada stood at $4.6 billion, while exports to Canada were pegged at $3.8 billion. More than 600 Canadian companies have established a presence in India. This, as more than 1,000 companies are actively pursuing business opportunities in the Indian market. India is also the second most popular destination for Canadian pension fund investments after Australia, commanding 25% of investment flow. Accounting for a nearly 1.8 million strong diaspora, coupled with 1 million non-resident Indians, Canada also hosts one of the biggest Indian diaspora in the world. It accounts for more than 3% of its population. Not only this, India is also the largest source country of foreign students for Ottawa. An estimated 427,000 Indian students are studying in Canada. As per Canadian government's 2022 figures, Indian students made the most significant contribution to its economy among international students. These are some of the statistics that underline India's importance in Canada's economy. However, Canada's unabashed support to Khalistan terrorists has repeatedly caused rifts between New Delhi and Ottawa. The Indian government views it as a threat to its sovereignty, while many in Canada see it as an expression of freedom. As the world watches on, only time will tell if the diplomatic fallout between the countries has far-reaching consequences on trade relations, and more importantly, the nearly 3 million strong Indian diaspora in Canada. With Arjun Samar Mahendran, Samya Afsar for NDTV World.
Okay, I'm going to come to Sudhir Devare and Swasti Rao in just a bit, but I want to put the context clear for our viewers. You heard the report that tells you in terms of the kind of people-to-people ties that India and Canada have, the amount of students who wish to study there. A lot of foreign universities rest on Indian students and their ability to go and study there. And as many as 4 to 5 universities are said to see their finances get deeply impacted. But there's another trade aspect to it, and I want to put that out for our viewers very clearly. The India-Canada trade ties are about $4 billion. India is a larger economy than Canada. Canada is just about a little over $2 trillion. Canada and India is just a shade under $4 trillion. Canada is largely an oil economy. A lot of it rests on agriculture. If this escalates, if India wants to take the tit-for-tat any further in terms of trade measures, slap some measures as far as agriculture, specifically on pulses, is concerned, then the pain could be far more for Canada going forward. At the cost of repeating, India is a bigger economy at this stage than Canada. Let's get in Swasti and Ambassador Devare to talk more on this. Ambassador Devare, to you first. You know, as things stand right now, there's a bit of a, and in fact, there's a fair bit of escalation that has happened right now. And when such things happen, it is hard to estimate where it will end. Because tomorrow is when, the Prime Minister, the Canadian Prime Minister, will appear in front of the committee. And who knows what could be the next set of wild accusations he could make. In the backdrop of that, how do you see the trade, the aspect about people to people connect, all that being impacted in the backdrop of how the Canadian political landscape is shaping?
Well, Canada has really brought this upon themselves through their preposterous imputations, most wild and irresponsible accusations since last year, when the Prime Minister spoke in the Canadian Parliament last year, accusing India of involvement, Indian agents' involvement in the Niger case. So, and the latest one being calling Indian High Commissioner and the Indian officials there as persons of interest. I think Canada has really crossed the limit, and therefore India had to act tough. India has accordingly asked its own High Commissioner and officers to be withdrawn for security reasons because they are under threat there in Canada, and also asked the Canadian diplomats to leave. So the situation at the moment is one of very low between India and Canada. And as your earlier report showed, there is such an extensive relationship between Canada and India. There are two democracies, two otherwise very friendly countries, large diaspora, Indian students in large numbers. So there are such the whole area between India and Canada has been, all these years, has been marked by a certain understanding and friendship. Now, all this has been somehow through the actions of the Prime Minister Trudeau, really been reduced to virtually nil. And I think we'll have to now really think in terms of how to restore the situation. But let us first see how Canada itself
responds to it. I'm going to come back to you. Sir, I'm going to come back. Let's make opening comments. I'm going to come back to you. Swasti, quickly, a lot is being said in terms of the fact that there may not be cascading impact of what is happening right now diplomatically. How do you assess the situation?
Yeah, so thank you, Gaurie, for that question, and it's great to be on your show. So the first thing is that, yes, there is no doubt about the fact that Justin Trudeau has, proved to be a repeat offender of sorts. I think it's very, very clear. We've been discussing it again and again that the sheer high-handedness in his manner, of implicating all these, things and also putting these allegations is something which has gone down very, very badly. And that is the reason for what is happening. The allegations, he says, are not really put out on the table, and this, just so much of a hodgepodge, okay? For lack of a better term. Now, I think a more relevant question to ask is that what comes next? And I think here, I was very happy that you did this little report on how important are India-Canada trade ties. Let's not forget that I think one of the great achievements of the Modi government has also been to open up India's FDI, to a lot of players. And in that, we have seen a steady increase in Canada's investments in India. Also in the pension fund scenario, we have seen that Canadians have been investing a lot in India. So that's one part. The other is also a geostrategic part, which is coming from the Canadian Indo-Pacific strategy, which was released in November of 2022. So I think Trudeau, of course, is part of this Trudeau drama that we see unfolding is also because of the kind of frustration that he is incurring back home as his own domestic politics is running into trouble. I mean, just look at, we've been mentioning how, for example, the by-elections in Montreal and Toronto, we saw his party doing not well. We all know the Khalistani point, that he's in the this coalition with this Khalistani party, and why is he playing, to the tunes of the Khalistani? So we all know that. But what is
Right.
more important is that even the Canadians, only 33% of them actually approve of Trudeau's prime ministership. 67% don't. And this is something which is very, very recent. This is like September of this year. So what I'm trying to
Okay.
say is that Canadians themselves are not happy with Trudeau. I think we should try to find out a diplomatic solution to this, because this is not just
Let me
about
ask this. Let me
one
ask this to
section
the
of
ambassador
Palestine.
on the panel, Swasti, which is that what can be the kind of diplomatic solutions one can look for in a situation that is fluid and in a situation where Justin Trudeau, for all you know, is willing to risk the ties even further for the sake of political survival?
Well, there will be elections in Canada next year, though in October 2025, there's still time. But as was just now mentioned, Trudeau is a minority government at the moment. He has less than 30% approval within his own country. Even before October election, there are parties and people asking for his resignation. So I think whether the people of Canada would accept a situation of this kind with a country like India, I think that needs to be seen. The community in Canada, including the large Sikh community, are peaceful. They are very the friendly countries, friendly communities there, and therefore I don't see why there should be any misgiving about people-to-people relationship between the two countries. I think those will continue. Now, as regards the trade, well, trade is growing now. There are more investments. There are some 500 Canadian companies in India. I think they would need to follow a policy of some patience and they would hope that
Okay.
situation would improve between the two countries in a few months' time,
Okay.
and that the bilateral trade will continue to flourish.
Okay.
As regards students are concerned, I feel very bad for them, because a large number of Indian students go to Canada.
it's the issuance of visas in the short term that will be impacted, and that will have an impact on the students as well, given the fact that the fall semester is set to begin. So that I do feel there will be an impact. Completely out of time. Thank you so much, both of you.